girls, children of all ages, welcome to Robert's Sports Show. I'm your host, Robert. Biggest party of the summer is this weekend. Professional wrestling, we have Brooklyn 4, NXT TakeOver, and we have SummerSlam, the biggest party of the summer. This is going to be the best of TakeOver. So there has been 20 NXT TakeOver shows on the WWE Network so far in the history of TakeOver. The very first one was May 29th, 2014. Night after 20 takeovers, what some amazing matches we've seen, what some great wrestling and people moving from the developmental NXT onto the main roster and what they have become. Out of those 20 takeovers, there's been 107 matches. 48 non-title, 19 NXT titles, 1 United Kingdom title defense. Every takeover's had a women's title match, all 20 of them. 18 times the tag title has been on the line, and 1 time the North American title has been on the line. So I'm going to go down the 10 best men's matches and the 10 best women's matches of NXT TakeOver history. Of the women, we'll go with them first. All but one was for the NXT women's title. Number 10 on the list comes from TakeOver New Orleans, NXT women's title. Champion Ember Moon defending the title versus Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler getting the victory, and I gave it 3 3/4 stars. Number 9 is the only non-title match on the list. It comes from TakeOver London. We had Asuka. Who is better than Asuka? Versus Emma. Asuka getting the victory in a 4-star match. Number 8 comes from TakeOver Unstoppable. Champion Sasha Banks defending the title versus Becky Lynch, the last kicker. Sasha getting the victory in a 4-star match. Number 7 comes from TakeOver Rival. Fatal 4-way for the women's title. We had the 4 horsewomen, Bayley versus champion Charlotte Flair versus Sasha Banks versus the last kicker, Becky Lynch. Sasha getting a victory in a 4-star match. Number 6 comes from the very first TakeOver. It was just called TakeOver. It was at the Full Sail Arena in Orlando, Florida. In the corner of Charlotte Flair, we had her Hall of Fame, 2-time Hall of Fame father, 16-time champion, the Nature Boy. Woo! And versus her opponent, Natalya, and in her corner was WWE champion and Hall of Famer Bret Hart. And Charlotte winning the first ever NXT Women's title in a 4-star match. Number 5 comes from Brooklyn 2. We had Women's Champion Asuka versus Bayley. Asuka getting the victory in a 4-star match. Number 4 comes from TakeOver Respect. 30-minute Iron Woman match. Champion Bayley defending the title this time versus Sasha Banks. And Bayley retaining it in a 4 1/4 star 30-minute Iron Woman match. Number 3 comes from Brooklyn 3. 1 year ago, we had Ember Moon versus Asuka. And you know what? No one's ready for Asuka. Asuka retaining her title in a 4-star match. Number 2 was the same 2, Ember Moon versus Asuka in their first matchup. TakeOver Orlando. Asuka once again retaining her title in a 4 1/4 star match. And the best women's match at TakeOver history goes all the way back to Brooklyn 1. Bayley versus Sasha Banks when Bayley first won the NXT Women's title in a 4 1/2 star match. Now for the men, the 10 best men's matches in NXT TakeOver history. Number 10 comes from TakeOver Orlando for the NXT heavyweight title. We had champion Bobby Roode versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Bobby Roode retaining in a 4 1/2 star match. Number 9 comes from TakeOver Toronto. The NXT tag titles on the line. 2 out of 3 falls. DIY beating the Revival to become new tag team champions in a 4 1/2 star match. Number 8 comes from TakeOver Chicago 1. we had the NXT tag titles on the line once again. This time was a ladder match. We had champions, the Authors of Pain, with Paul Ellering, winning in a ladder match over at DIY. Authors of Pain retaining in a 4.5 star match. As we all know, that led to the explosion of DIY and Tommaso Ciampa turning on Johnny Gargano, and led to arguably two of the greatest matches in the history of NXT TakeOver, along with the possible third, one of those, coming up also a rematch, could be one of the third top, 3 out of 4 top matches in NXT TakeOver history. So glad that match happened, and AOP won, and Ciampa turned, and we wouldn't have had Ciampa Gargano. Number 7 also comes from TakeOver Chicago. The first ever defense on NXT TakeOver of the United Kingdom title. We had champion Tyler Bate, the big strong boy, taking on the Bruiserweight, Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne winning the UK title in a 4 3/4 star classic. Number 6 comes from TakeOver Revolution. NXT title versus career. Champion Neville versus Sami Zayn. Neville put his title up versus Sami Zayn's career. As we all know, Sami Zayn won that match. His career has continued and flourished until he got hurt. So Zayn won that in a 4 3/4 star match. Number 5 comes TakeOver Philadelphia. It was a non-title match in Extreme Rules. Aleister Black versus Adam Cole. Bye-bye! And Aleister Black getting the victory in a 4 3/4 star match. Number 4. The first ever match for the NXT North American title in a ladder match. TakeOver New Orleans. Adam Cole versus Killian Dane versus the Velveteen Dream versus Lars Sullivan versus the 1% EC3 versus the one and only King Ricochet. This match delivered, did not disappoint at all. Adam Cole, bye-bye, winning the NXT North American title in a 4 3/4 star match. Number 3, the third greatest match in NXT TakeOver history. Chicago 2 non-title street fight. Tommaso Ciampa versus Johnny Gargano 2. Tommaso Ciampa getting a victory with his hands handcuffed behind his back. 4 3/4 star. The second greatest match in NXT TakeOver history came from TakeOver New Orleans in a non-title match, unsanctioned match. Tommaso Ciampa versus Johnny Gargano. Johnny Wrestling getting his revenge on Ciampa, winning that match in a 5-star classic. And the greatest match in NXT TakeOver history, TakeOver Philadelphia. The NXT title on the line. Champion Andrade Cien Almas versus Johnny Wrestling Johnny Gargano. Andrade Cien Almas retaining his title. 5-star classic. The first match that I ever gave a 5-star rating to was that Andrade Cien Almas Johnny Gargano. It was just unfucking believable. If you've not seen it, go to the WWE Network and watch it. It is match of the year for 2018. I have 250 matches on my 4-star match list from 2018 so far. That bad boy is number 1. So, yeah, go watch it. Now, with all these great NXT TakeOver shows we've had, I was thinking, earlier today actually, what was the greatest TakeOver show? Which of the 20 was the greatest? So I'm like, how do you determine what makes the greatest NXT show? TakeOver. I'm like, I thought and went, wait a minute. Average star rating. I star rate every other match. Let's look back on all the 20 and let's star rate them fuckers. Alright, so the best 10 NXT TakeOvers. Number 10, NXT TakeOver Dallas had an average star rating of 3.5, overall star rating of 18. Number 9 comes from Brooklyn 2, with an average star rating of 3.5. It had 6 matches, and the overall star rating was 20.25. Number 8 comes from TakeOver Philadelphia, with an average star rating of a 3.75, with the overall of 18.25. Number 7, War Games. Average star rating 3.75, with an overall of 18.75. Now these two here were tied, so War Games and Chicago 2 were tied. I liked Chicago 2 better, so it won out. Same ratings, average of 3.75, with an overall rating of 18.75. The next two also tied at 19 overall star ratings, with both averaging 3.75. So number 5 is Chicago 1, and number 4 is TakeOver Toronto. The third best overall TakeOver was Orlando. Last year, TakeOver Orlando averaged 4-star matches. So the average match was 4-star. Overall star rating 19.75. All these had 5 matches. The second greatest NXT TakeOver in the history of takeovers I was at, NXT TakeOver New Orleans, averaged a 4.25 star rating, overall star rating of 20.5. And the greatest TakeOver ever, Brooklyn 3, 1 year ago, with an overall star rating of 21, with an average of 4.25. Wow. So now we're going to look at, this is TakeOver Brooklyn 4. Let's look at the best matches from TakeOver Brooklyn's. So the 10 best matches from the TakeOvers at Brooklyn only. Number 10 came from Brooklyn 3, tag titles. Sanity winning the titles from the champions, Authors of Pain, 3.75 star. Number 9 comes from Brooklyn 2, women's title, Asuka versus Bayley, Asuka retaining, 4 star. Number 8 comes from Brooklyn 3, non-title, Andrade Cien versus Johnny Gargano, 4.25. Number 7 comes from also Brooklyn 3, 1 year ago, non-title, Aleister Black versus Hideo Itami, Aleister Black winning, 4.25. Number 6 comes from Brooklyn 3, NXT title on the line, Drew McIntyre versus champion Bobby Roode, and Drew McIntyre winning, 4.25. Number 5. So you wonder why Brooklyn 3 is the best overall TakeOver? It had number 10, number 8, number 7, number 6 on the overall TakeOver matches. Number 5, NXT title, Samoa Joe versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Brooklyn 2, winner, Samoa Joe, 4.25. Number 4 comes from Brooklyn 1, NXT title on the line in a ladder match. Champion Finn Balor versus Kevin Owens, and Finn winning in a 4.25 star match. The third greatest Brooklyn match came from Brooklyn 2, tag titles on the line. The Revival versus DIY, the Revival winning 4.5 star. The second greatest, Brooklyn TakeOver 3, NXT Women's Title, Champion Asuka versus Ember Moon, 4.5 star. And the greatest Brooklyn TakeOver match ever, Brooklyn 1, NXT Women's Title line, Bayley beating Sasha Banks, 4.5 star. That is the best of NXT TakeOver ever. All 20 of them, the best of the best of the best. Brooklyn TakeOver 4, how many matches will make the top 10 women's, top 10 men? There's 5 matches. The women's match is most definitely capable. Kairi Sane, Shayna Baszler. 5 men's matches. Could that be the 5 greatest matches in NXT TakeOver history? Anything's possible. Make sure you check out 30 Years of SummerSlam, the best of. Coming to Robert Sports Show. As always, thanks for Robert Sports Show, and don't just have a great day. Have a spiffy day. Robert Sports Show, your YouTube leader, sports channel content.